New York Giants 29, Seattle Seahawks 20. Giants move to 2-3. Seattle falls to 3-2. The other surprising result of the week here, Daniel Jones. Look, we may have harped on Daniel Jones' missed deep balls last week. Too much.
No,
because
not too much.
Outside of the misses, I mean, they would have won the game.
Yes.
Against Dallas.
Which is why it wasn't too much.
He hit those this week.
Right.
And it did win the game against Seattle, but he has been hyper efficient in the, up to 10 to 15 yards over the last couple of weeks, even without Malik Neighbors.
Right.
In this game. Really efficient game here by Daniel Jones and the Giants offense, who controlled. I mean, time of possession doesn't always tell a great story, but what was it in this? It had to be like 37 minutes the Giants held the ball and just kept the ball out of Seattle's offense hands.
No, I think that is why it wasn't too much, right? Is that the game last week was there to be won if Daniel Jones had hit anything in terms of deep passes. This week, in terms of 20-plus yards attempts, he was 2 for 2 with a touchdown, 71 yards. Like, it was the difference. And it should have been the difference, or it was the difference a week ago, just in the opposite direction. So it was the appropriate amount to bang on about the fact that he hadn't hit a deep ball since, like, the Clinton administration. He finally got it dialed in, and we got to see, actually, it's not like a chronic neck injury that means he can't throw the ball further than 10 yards down the field. He's capable of doing it. He just hasn't been. If he gets that back, if Danny Dimes rediscovers Danny Dimes from early in his career, the Giants are a different proposition. They become that team we were talking about, in preseason. What if Daniel Jones actually has the season they thought he was capable of now that he has Malik Neighbors and some other weaponry? Now, as you said, Neighbors was out of this game. But Darius Slayton, his sort of previous favorite deep target, they reconnected for the first time in years.
Yeah, 2 nice ones, man. 2 really nice. I was thinking of you earlier in the game because it felt like they were just running Daniel Jones right up the gut. I mean, did you notice that too? You always notice when he takes these massive hits.
He took one down by the goal line. I'm like, that guy has the least self-preservation of any quarterback in the NFL. He just runs like a crash test dummy. It's like the thing, you see those slow-mo replays of cars driving into walls, and the thing with the circle, the X on his head, is just like careening back and forth, bouncing off a window pane, headbutting the steering wheel. That's Daniel Jones when he rushes into a 5-man front and is like, there's another yard to be had here. Sure, it's going to require limbs flying everywhere, but I've got it in me. I'm going for it.
Oh, man. Yeah, he had 11 official carries, including kneel downs. I want to give the Giants O-line a little bit of credit here. We talked about their offseason being in creep back to average mode. They had 1 PFF pass block grade as a team in the 30s against the Browns back in week 3. But every other game's been in the green. They're this maybe the best pass protecting they've been doing in New York for quite a while now. That's helping the high efficient pass game of the Giants.
Sure. And then we had the breakout game from Tyrone Tracy, a running back.
You loved him at draft time.
Loved Tyrone Tracy. Somebody pointed out that somebody said, they tweeted me, they apparently drafted this guy in fantasy purely because I described him as running like he's drunk.
You did. That was, it's a bit of a scouty term, but yeah, you did say that.
It's high-level scouting parlance. But as I pointed out, it's basically impossible to stop a determined drunk. And that's what you're dealing with when Tyrone Tracy carries the ball. But so you've got, on the one hand, you've got Tyrone Tracy, who runs like a determined drunk, and then Daniel Jones, who runs like a crash test dummy. That was their backfield yesterday. And between them, they broke like 9 tackles, got a ton of yards after contact, and established the run. Established it hard.
You haven't broken out. I have to say, you're having a down year with metaphors and just general. I mean, that's good, though.
The crash test dummy?
Yeah.
He really does.
Crash test dummy and the determined drunk in the backfield.
But anyway, Tyrone Tracy breakout game.
That's
Dude
not
looked fantastic.
Commentary on anything that Tyrone Tracy does off the field.
No, I mean, I said it at the time. It's I mean this in a positive, complimentary fashion. Like, he runs like a determined drunk with people trying to get in his way. You ever watch like a drunk try and evade somebody who's trying to corral him, throw him in a cab and send him home?
It's good.
You can't contain that guy. He's gonna do what he wants to do. You just have to step back and let it happen.
Gotta let it happen.
That's Tyrone Tracy.
You mentioned, shout out to you in the preview show.
There you go. There's the tweet on the screen.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know you tweeted this out, too.
Oh, yeah. Got to get with the draft
Was
takes.
that from yesterday?
No,
that's draft time.
That was draft time.
Well, look at you, coming good. Little did you know it was going to lead to a Week 5 win against Seattle. Dexter Lawrence, we mentioned in every game preview, because it's like, how can a team handle Dexter Lawrence? Well, 4 times. I don't know what the NFL gave him, but we had him. PFF had him with 4 sacks.
Ooh.
That's fine. PFF, we the 33rd team. PFF had him with 4 sacks.
Yes,
as of right now. I mean, he tackled Geno 4 times.
Right. And that was what we were saying.
At key times, too.
The sort of nutshell analysis of this game, preview-wise, was Seattle is a better team across the board. The only way that it can go in New York's favor is if Dexter Lawrence has one of those games where he takes over like he did to the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs a couple of years ago, because Seattle has a weak interior offensive line. Dexter Lawrence is the best nose tackle in the NFL. If that happens, it changes the whole dynamic. It's kind of what happened. Now, the Giants' offense was better than we were giving it credit for in this game, but Dexter Lawrence was a beast. Brian Burns was good. Kayvon Thibodeau showed up and had those 3 conversion on the quarterback a few times. Thibodeau didn't necessarily win as decisively as the others, but they tended to happen at the same time, giving Geno nowhere to go on those plays. So, when those guys won, they completely changed those drives. And even when they every now and again, Geno would get out of there and get out of that pressure, and then he had just these acres to run into, these completely unopposed scrambling lanes.
Another team, I mean, I know Wink Martindale's not there anymore, but the Giants had that game where their blitz against the Browns a couple of weeks ago, I mean, everybody against the Browns, causing all sorts of problems for Deshaun Watson. They blitzed Geno Smith 12 times. 4 of those resulted in sacks. 4 for 7 for 53 yards, but the 4 sacks, I mean, it's just to me, another microcosm of the NFL season where teams are getting really creative with their pressure packages. In the Giants' case, it creates more one-on-ones for Dexter Lawrence, or it's creating free rushers, right? And they had a lot of success creating those negative plays for Seattle. Seattle, I mean, I was raving about them coming off of Monday night and what their offense is capable of, and they just got no rhythm, unable to even just run Ken Walker at all. 2 carries at the half, and just no rhythm offensively for Seattle.
And it's another game that shouldn't have been as close as it was, because it was one of those ones with the 14-point swing.
Oh, right. Yeah. To start it off.
Right. The Giants are about to punch it in. Instead, it's a fumble at the goal line, 102-yard return. It was one of those ones where they let it go, and you're like, they're letting it go just so they can review it, because they don't really know whether he broke the plane or not.
No, it was real.
Yeah, and then they showed it, and okay, it was probably legit, but it was razor thin. That was genuinely inches from being a Giants touchdown to the ball pops out, Seattle returns it. But that's a 14-point swing in a game where Seattle loses by 9 anyway, and it could have been 14 in addition to the Giants' direction. A couple other things I wanted to throw out for this game. DK Metcalf fumbles again, 2nd straight game where he's fumbled the ball. And that was just right after a big Tyler Lockett play. Tyler Lockett was really good in the game. That was big. And another game with a blocked field goal. This one, though.
This was huge.
And it was great.
So after all this, Seattle as the favorite, they're down 23-13. They get within 3. Geno hits Jackson Smith and Jigba for a touchdown. It's 23-20. There's 45 seconds left. They're in field goal range. 47-yard field goal to tie it. Likely go to overtime. And what happens?
Isaiah Simmons jumps over the center, over the line of scrimmage to block the kick, which is then returned for a Giants touchdown. When you watch number one, Isaiah Simmons, perfect guy to be doing that, right? Athletic freak show. He's the guy I want jumping over the offensive line.
Yes.
Number 2, we were like, okay, was it leverage? How did he get over there? You see a couple of the linemen, the blockers, they sort of dive down, and then you look at the reverse view of it, and you see that Dexter Lawrence is grabbing the dude and driving him into the turf. And the other side, they're doing it to the long snapper as well. So I think a lot of people were complaining about this, including the Seahawks. I think technically, if they grab and pull, illegal. Yeah. If they simply push from above after the guy's already dived into the turf, legal. Either way, when you can freeze frame it, and the Giants linemen have effectively taken the guard and the long snapper driven them into the turf, and parted them so that there is like a lane for Isaiah Simmons to leap over and block this kick. It's a really well done
That's impressive.
piece of special teams.
One other interesting note here. So the Giants go up 9 at this point, and on the 2-point conversion,
choose to take a knee.
they take a knee. Reasoning being,
I think that was really smart.
it was really smart. I think I've seen this before somewhere else, but the only way that Seattle has a chance to come back at that point is to get a pick like a pick 2,
Right.
Or
if they block
return,
the kick and return it,
block
it's a
the kick and
one-score
return,
game.
right? So if Seattle does anything on the 2-point conversion to pick up 2 points, then they're within 7, and then
It's a one, yeah.
and they're getting the ball kicked to them, right? So then they're within a score. So the Giants just say, we're going to take a knee. It's a 2-score game. We kick off, and the game's
That's the
pretty
thing.
much over.
The risk, which is admittedly small, but albeit it was just
It's
a
the
block
only
kick.
chance Seattle has
The
at that point.
like there's no good. It's already a 2-score game, right? All you can do is make it a different 2-score game.
Right.
Whereas the risk of actually, if the worst case scenario happens and they get points off it, it becomes a 1-score game and it's actually live.
Right. In that case, like I was talking about, like a 2-point conversion, it would have been if they blocked the extra point, returned it for 2, that would have gotten them within 7, and they'd be getting the ball back, right? Because the Giants just scored.
Yeah.
So the Giants just said, we're going to take a knee, which was
right. Whereas if you go for the kick, all you're doing is making it a 10-point game, which is still only a 2-possession game. It's still only a 2-possession game with a field goal. There's no upside. That's one of those ones where I'm actually really impressed that they are able to come up with all that on the fly, like in the 40 seconds. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah. That's a
really
rare situation.
Exactly. That's a really rare situation to be able to diagnose that and know the right thing to do. It's one of those ones that's easy after they've done it to be like, oh, yeah, I see why they've done that. That makes a lot of sense. To know intuitively that's the correct thing to do at that point is really smart.
Credit Dable, the entire coaching staff, analytics department, whoever's going through all that.
Right.
Because that's like July preparation. That's stuff you're doing well in advance. You're also not anticipating that you're going to block the field goal and return it for a touchdown, right? Maybe you are, but hey, like if we block it, return it for a touchdown, make sure you take a knee. But yeah, impressive job by the Giants to do that well.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.